Hi everybody, my name is Crystal and today I'm going to be working on part 1 of the Star Trek uniform. And so this is a Raglan style design, meaning it's worked from the top down. This is a week 5 pattern for CAL-oween, which is a crochet along that I'm doing with Ian from Ian is a Weirdo, for the 10 weeks leading up to Halloween. This particular tutorial for this pattern is going to be a 4-part series. So in part 1, we'll be working on the collar and the yoke. Part 2, we'll be working on the body and the sleeve opening sections. And then part 3, we'll be working on the sleeves. Part 4 is going to be handled by Ian, and for part 4 we're going to be he's going to be designing the insignia that's going to be going on to the top right here. I'm going to put the inspo for this uniform top in the video right here so you guys know which uniform I'm actually basing this off. It's pretty basic. It's the one with the V-neck collar, if you could see that. Now that you know some of the design features, I'm going to move on to materials. First, you're going to need 4 stitch markers that we're going to use for the marking of each of the 4 corners. I'm using a 6mm crochet hook with 4-weight yarn. So for the uniform color of the top, I am using Premier Just 1 pound, and it has 982 yards. This actually cost me $5 when it was in store. I don't know how much it is at this point, but this is a color denim. You could go with this like blue, a red, or a gold for the different units or crew members in the show. They each wear a different color. So there's the uniform color, and then for the collar you're going to use a black. In the tutorial I do it with a cream color just because it's easier to see, but yes, you're going to need a black. And you're also going to need a gold or cream color for the sleeves because the sleeves have some details on them. You're also going to need a measuring tape. This is not optional. This is very necessary to get your correct sizing. Something more flexible like this one would be ideal so you can get your sizing around the largest part of your chest. Or if you know your standard US size, that's what I base my sizing off of. So you could kind of gauge what size you're going to use based on your t-shirt size. You're also going to need sewing needles and scissors, of course. I'm using US standard crochet terms for my stitches, such as single crochet, double crochet, half double crochet, and treble crochet. I will let you guys know how many yards I use by the end of the pattern, and at the end of everything I will be combining all of the parts into a larger tutorial for ease of access later on. So to begin, we're going to start with a slip knot. Follow along with me and we'll do a foundation single crochet row for row 1. So to begin that, you're going to chain 2. This does not count as a stitch. You're going to insert your hook into the second chain from the hook, yarn over and draw a loop through, and then you have 2 loops on your hook. You're going to go ahead and yarn over and draw through for a chain, you have 2 loops on the hook. You're going to yarn over and draw through these 2 loops. And that's your first foundation single crochet. So if you turn it this way, it's a single crochet with a chain that we just added. Now what we're going to do is we're going to reinsert back into the chain that we made. So right into here, you should have like 2 loops. You're going to yarn over and draw through. Yarn over, draw through as if to make a chain. That's the foundation chain. Yarn over and draw through 2. That's the single crochet bit. Let me show you that again. I'm going to make it a little tighter because it was really loose. So we're inserting into the chain that we made, yarning over and drawing up a loop, chaining 1, yarn over and draw through 2. So the chain that we made on the bottom is our foundation chain, our faux foundation chain, and then the draw through right here is our single crochet. And then if you look on the top, we'll have 2 loops on the top to work into later. We're just repeating that. So we're going to insert into the chain, yarn over and draw up a loop. You have 2 loops. Yarn over, draw through as if to make a chain, yarn over and draw through 2. And we're just going to keep repeating that until we have 60. Okay, so this should be 60. I'm going to count 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 20, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42, 44, 46, 48, 50, 52, 54, 56, 58, 60. Okay. Grab your handy dandy measuring tape. So we're going to measure this from the beginning point to the end, and it should stretch to be about like 25. It should be able to stretch to about 25 inches, which is the size that I wanted for the neck opening for this particular top. Now what we're going to do, take these stitch markers out for right now, place our hook into the last stitch we made, and we're going to take our work like this. So take it so that the foundation chain is up here, and this is the stitch, so this is the chain. So it would be the same if you were doing it with the chain. So the chain's up here and the stitch is down here, and we're going to pinch it in our fingers and then kind of glide our hand over the stitches like this, so that we don't twist the chain or we don't twist the row like that. And then on top is the single crochet, and you're just going to insert your hook, grab your yarn, your working yarn, and then yarn over, draw through, and then draw through again to slip stitch this close. For round 2, we're going to chain 1 and then single crochet into each stitch around, and you will have 60 stitches when you get around. This is the last single crochet of the round, and we're going to join the round with a slip stitch in the beginning stitch. Okay, so at this point we're going to grab our 4 stitch markers and start marking off some stitches. Okay, so our 4 stitch markers, Our first stitch marker is going to actually go into our first stitch of the round, right there. Our second stitch marker, we're going to count 18 stitches, so counting by twos. 18 right there. Our third stitch marker is going to go into the 12th stitch, so we're going to count 12 right there. And then our last stitch marker is going to be going in the 18th stitch, so we're going to count 18. 18 right there. And then that will leave us with, let's see, the remaining stitches unmarked. That's 11 stitches unmarked. I did forget to say we're going to use this tail to sew this part closed later so that it looks a little more seamless, but that's for another time. Okay, so now we're going to move on to round 3, and we're going to work 36 single crochet, or we're going to work into the next 36 single crochets. And a helpful tip is from the beginning of the round to the third stitch marker, so beginning of the round to the third stitch marker is 31 stitches total. So instead of counting a whole 36 stitches, you can just single crochet until you get to the third stitch marker and know that that is 31 stitches, and then add 5 more single crochet, because we're going to create this part right here to form a little V-neck right in this area, and that's what we're going to do on the front side. So I am going to start the round. We're going to chain 1 and move that stitch marker out. Every time you get to a stitch marker, you're going to move it to the next round. So we're going to single crochet and then put our stitch marker back. So you're just going to single crochet into each stitch and move the stitch marker up to the next round at the same stitch, so that we keep the stitches in the correct placement for later. And I will meet back up with you guys when we get to the third stitch marker that's right over here. Okay then, I reached the third stitch marker, and I know it's 31 stitches that I've made, and then I'm going to make 5 more stitches for a total of 36 stitches. Yep. Now in the next stitch, we're going to work a half double crochet. We're going to yarn over, insert, yarn over, draw up a loop, and then yarn over and draw through 3. And then we're going to do, in the next stitch, we're going to do a double crochet. So we yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over, draw up a loop. We have 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over and draw through the remaining 2, and that's a double. And then we're going to work a treble crochet in the next 3 stitches. So we're going to yarn over twice, insert, draw up a loop, and draw through. We have 4 loops on the hook. We're going to yarn over, draw through 2, draw through 2, draw through 2. That's 3 times total, and we're going to repeat that 2 more times. 2 more times. So that's 3 treble crochet. Then in the next stitch, we're going to work a double crochet, and then in the next stitch a half double, like so, like that. Then we're going to work a single crochet in the remaining stitches and slip stitch to join. So I will meet back up with you guys when we're over here slip stitching to join the round. Right, this is the last stitch of the round, and this is where we slip stitch. So just letting you know, so you don't kind of work into this place right here, because this is not a stitch. This is a slip stitch. This is the single crochet. So we're just going to insert our hook in the slip stitch in the last stitch, and then we're going to move on to round 4. Okay, for round 4, we're going to chain 1, single crochet, and move that stitch marker. And what we're just doing is single crocheting in each stitch around. And we should have 60 stitches because we have not increased or decreased. So we're just going to single crochet in each stitch around, and I will meet back up with you guys when you're at the last stitch of the round. So I'm at the last stitch of the round again, and we got our slip stitches here, and we're going to slip stitch in the beginning stitch to join. And this ends the 4 rounds for the collar. We're going to grab a secondary color that we're going to use for our uniform color and attach it at the slip stitch. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and then I'm going to show you round 1 of the yoke. So I'm going to grab my color and then come back. Okay, so I grabbed the light gray yarn for demonstration purposes only. This is called Dusty Gray, and it's a Super Saver, Red Heart Super Saver. 4-weight, you know. I think right now it's a good time to grab your scissors, because you're going to want to cut a tail long enough to sew from the collar color, because you don't want this yarn tangling with your new color anyway. So that is what I am doing. I am grabbing the new color with a long enough tail to sew, like that, and then I'm going to hook it and pull it through the loop that's on my hook, and just pull it through like that. And then I'm going to grab this tail that I just cut and pull it to secure the new color. And then I'm going to sew this later, so it's going to be actually secure, but that's how I'm reattaching. Just grab enough so that you can sew it. And then I'm going to chain up 1. And here's our first marked stitch, and this is going to be what we repeat around. So what I'm going to do is remove the marker, and in the first stitch, but in the back loops, we're going to work a V-stitch, which is a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet into the same stitch, and that begins the round. And we're working in the back loops for the entirety of this round only. So we're gonna just do a double crochet into the back loops until we reach the next marked stitch. and that will be what we repeat. I'm going to meet up with you guys when we reach the marked stitch that's right over here, and then I'm going to show you guys the repeat again. So just double crochet across, and I'll meet back up with you at the marked stitch. Okay, so I reached the marked stitch, and in the marked stitch we're just gonna take the stitch marker out so it's easier to work in, and then in the marked stitch we're going to work a V-stitch, which is a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, and then I don't know if I set it on this side because I didn't even put the stitch marker back in and I kind of dropped it, but anyways, we're going to mark the chain 2 because as we work this pattern, when we work across to the next stitch marker, it's going to hit our hand and we're going to know that that's where we're increasing. So I'm actually going to put a stitch marker back into this chain 2 of the V-stitch, and that's basically our repeat. Is we're going to work double crochets across until we reach the next stitch marker, and then when we get to the stitch marker we're going to do a V-stitch, double crochet, chain 2, double crochet into the same stitch. And so just repeat this around, and I'll meet back up with you guys when you're at the last single crochet right over here. Alrighty, this is the last double crochet, and we're going to slip stitch in the beginning double crochet stitch to join the round like that. Alright, so we're moving on to the repeat round, and that is round 2. So round 2, like I just said, is going to be the repeat round. You're going to be repeating round 2 until you have your yoke measurement, and I will explain that after I explain round 2, so I'm not trying to get ahead of myself. Okay, so round 2, this is going to be what you repeat around. For this part, I'm actually going to have you take the stitch marker out and put it into your first double crochet of the round, and you'll see why in a second, because we're actually going to be skipping this stitch and slip stitching into the chain 2 space every preceding round at the beginning of the round. Alright, so we're going to slip stitch into the chain 2 space, essentially skipping this stitch right here. So kind of place this stitch marker like right here over the slip stitch and into the stitch right there. We're gonna have, this is our double crochet from the previous round, the last double crochet, and then this right here that looks like a stitch kind of, that is your slip stitch, or no, this is your chain 1 when you chained up. So we're not working into this part right here, but we're gonna mark the stitch we are working in so that it's a little more clear, and then as you go you're going to know what it looks like, but just for right now we're going to mark that stitch because we have to remember to work in this stitch when we go back around from working over here. So just saying that really quick. So what we're going to do, we already slip stitched, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to work our V-stitch into the chain 2 space, and that's a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet in this case. Then remembering this stitch exists, because this is one of the stitches of the V-stitch. We got to work into that, and we're going to double crochet into this stitch and into each stitch across until we reach chain 2 space right over here. So we're just going to double crochet across till we reach the chain 2 space. And I mean, that's what you're repeating for the entirety of the yoke. I'll put that in parentheses so you can see what it looks like written up, but yeah, we're just double crocheting across. Remove the stitch marker at the chain 2 space, and then we're just going to work a V-stitch into the chain 2 space of the previous V-stitch, and that's your repeat. I think it's pretty straightforward and beginner friendly as a beginner top patterns. But yeah, just repeat this, and I will meet you back around on this last double crochet over here. Alrighty, I made it around, and like I had said before, this is the chain 1, and then this is going to be the stitch that we actually work into. So we're going to double crochet into the last stitch of the round, and then just remove that stitch marker, use it in a little bit, and slip stitch into the beginning stitch to join. And so that's going to be what we repeat all the way around. If you need to rewatch that, I would suggest rewatching it. I will have the video chapter for you. But yeah, we're just going to repeat that. Mark this double crochet, because then we're going to slip stitch into the chain 2 space, and that way it keeps our beginning of round centered onto this increase, which is the back side of the piece. If we did not do the slip stitching and the working of the stitch that way, what would happen is we would begin to have increasing between this point and this point. So it would be increasing by 1. So when we do the slip stitching that way, it actually just centers the beginning of the round to being in the center of the chain 2 space each time we go around. And then our piece should look something like this. Like I showed you with this one, I actually changed to the black for this. This is going to be the piece that I actually continuously work on and show you guys for part 2, because it's going to keep growing. So yeah, as you fold it over, this is our sleeve opening, and then this part is our body opening, and this is the front facing side to be worn. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next step to show you how to do our measurements. Hello guys. Before you move on and the top gets too big for you to see on the screen, I wanted to show you how to do your measurements. So we have the 4 corners marked. This is the front side, this is the back side, and these are the 2 shoulders. And we're going to measure along the shoulders. So grab your measuring tape, and what you're going to do is measure from the top stitch marker to the bottom stitch marker. And right now it's about like 6.5 inches. So just keep working round 2, like I just said, until you have the length that you need for your desired size. So I'm gonna keep working on this off camera, and I will come back when my yoke is longer, and we'll meet back up for part 2. I will put part 2 in the description of this video so that you guys can watch it. And yeah, I will also in part 2 show you my top measurement for my size. Hopefully I can fit it on the screen in some way, shape, or form. And yeah, thank you guys for watching part 1, and I will see you guys in part 2.